Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Like I am the so again I'll start over. I'm Garrett Westlake. I am the Associate Vice Provost for Innovation here at VCU, as well as the Executive Director of the Da Vinci Center, and therefore get the real privilege of overseeing the Masters in Product Innovation program here at VCU. It's really the crown jewel of the Da Vinci Center for Innovation. It's the program where myself and a number of our other faculty and administrators get a chance to spend the most time with students, which I think is what we enjoy most about it. Especially this time of year. I mean, I'm just reflecting on the fact that our students are completing their final presentations in 590, which is the project-based course. And unlike some students that might be writing final papers or taking an exam, our students are literally pitching C-suite of Fortune 500 and startup companies and nonprofits all across the region and nationally. And we got a chance to go to some of those. One team did it early because just this last week, one of the CEOs of a company flew to Richmond, met with the student team to hear their pitch because his company was engaging in client work the next day, and they wanted the recommendations from the students before they went to go meet with a client that they were working with. And we're just so impressed with the work that the students did and literally took notes and were making calls to their production team to make changes to their product the next day based on what our students came up with. So all that to say, things you probably already know about our program is that it is very applied. It is a program that really prides itself on community. We are a small program by design. And we believe fundamentally in getting to know our students as people and getting to geek out alongside you about whatever it is that you are interested in. It's fun. I think the faculty are really curious and like exploring new things with you. If we don't already have interests in that area, we like learning new things alongside you. And then I think there's a lot of sharing within the cohort. I think we're seeing increasingly the unique and the diverse members of the cohort bring their individual strengths and skills with them, and then do a lot of knowledge sharing with each other. And I think that's really powerful as well, to be surrounded by peers that are also curious, that are also creative, and to be able to learn from one another. So my role is to, position the Masters of Product Innovation program within the larger suite of VCU's offerings. I think that we show up really well both within Richmond as well as nationally. Fortune 500 companies continue to be among our biggest employers. Names you'd recognize like CarMax and Capital One, but increasingly our students are also working for a lot of startups who are just as eager to harness the talent of students coming out of our program. And I think that's one of the things I'm really proud of, is that you're prepared to go be on a team of 5 and bring some brand new product or service to market that's never been done before as part of a startup, or to go work for a Fortune 500 company and step into a leadership role where you're getting to advance existing or new products and services in that context. And our students have been equally at home in all of those domains. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Shift Retail Lab, which I think we have really learned how to better integrate into the program. So we launched this only 2 years ago. The first 6 months that it was open, it won honorable mention in Fast Company magazine as for urban design. And then this last fall, we were the outright winner in the learning category for the programmatic elements of the Shift Retail Lab in the Innovation by Design Award from Fast Company. Other winners were groups like Canva, the North Face. It was a pretty cool awards reception to go to up in Manhattan with a lot of the top design teams in the country. And so the Shift Retail Lab has really become what we call the classroom of the future. So this idea that retail lab is part of your academic program, where companies are coming in and testing new products and services, where there's daily invention and innovation taking place with our local community, that's a part of this program. So I think that national reputation, and even now we're looking at potentially creating a network of Shift Retail Labs across the world. We have some institutions outside the United States and within the United States that are exploring franchising or bringing about their own shift retail lab, and then creating a network of cross-pollination between those different institutions. So always something to look forward to in future cohorts. There's the cohort that is like, oh my gosh, we were here when it opened. And then there's going to be the one where it's like, we were there when the second one opened or the third one, and we got a chance to travel. So always looking to the future and practicing what we preach in terms of product innovation. Mary Chris is going to get a chance, and assuming Allison's router comes back online, Allison will join her in talking through some of the nuts and bolts of the individual courses and the curriculum and how they fit together and the different pathways of how folks can complete the program. But I will leave them to the nuts and bolts. But while I'm here, any questions for me or MC, anything that I failed to touch upon that you want me and Jenny, if you have a question, feel free to jump in and ask. I'm happy to answer any student questions.
One question was just, what is the student makeup like? Is that, I don't know who's best to answer that, but
yeah. So one of the things that we really enjoy is building an intentional cohort of really diverse people. So we tend to have a couple sort of rock star folks that just graduated undergrad, but were stellar innovators and entrepreneurs that typically are continuing because they have a product that they're looking to bring to market, and this gives them additional runway. And so that's sort of who comes in from a younger demographic is someone that already has a startup company and they're looking for runway. We get a lot of returning folks that have a lot of industry experience. In the current cohort, we have someone that recently sold his pediatric dental practice and is re-careering from being a pediatric dentist and brings a unique perspective from the healthcare space. And I'd say that, well, that sounds really divergent. It's not that atypical. We attract people from lots of different, finance, healthcare, engineering, design, communications. I mean, so our average age really fluctuates over the last couple of cohorts, but it's in the upper 20s to low 30s. So we have yet to find someone, I think, join our program and feel like, oh, I didn't think this was for me. I don't fit in with the rest of the group. It has historically been majority women, majority students of color. It's usually between 15 and 20% international students. So there's a global component to it. The program also has, an opportunity to study in Portugal and complete this international tech accelerator in Portugal. So there's that international piece, in addition to sort of the international mix of the students. So this is not a program where we say, this is a prototypical student. We are looking for people 22 to 24 who just graduated from an engineering school. That is not the point. The point is to build a really eclectic group of people.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I think you touched on one of my other questions was that, is it mostly national based, but it seems to be an international component as well. And is that sponsors and things from international businesses?
Yeah. So, I think we recognize that increasingly we live in a global society, and that you're not designing something just within the context of a US based market. And so the European Innovation Academy really gives you the opportunity to be paired on a cross-disciplinary, cross-continental team. And so you will work with students from other countries and try and launch a new technology product with them, learning from how different this might look in other parts of the world. And then that's a network that you have going forward. And so you see a lot of, I love seeing on the Facebook group for the European Innovation Academy, people hiring. One of our former MPI students went to go work for an international VC firm. And he left the US and went to Poland to work for a VC firm that was running an accelerator over there. So that ability to sort of apply what you've learned in different parts of the world is definitely something that I wouldn't say it is the singular focus, but it definitely builds the capacity for folks. And there are opportunities, if that is an interest, to sort of double down in that regard. So we have sent students in the program. VCU has a campus in Doha, in Qatar. So we've sent students in the master's program to Qatar to represent Da Vinci and work on a project over there. This year, we're going to be sending students who are probably going to go back to India with me. I spent some time in India this past year. They're going to go back to India with me and explore some partnerships there. So definitely, if that's an interest, something that is abound in the program.
Thank you. Very much an interest. It's very intriguing.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions?
Not right
Jesse,
now.
any questions?
Hi. No, so let's see. I saw this 2 hours ago in the VCU news. So I do have an interest in this program. I actually had a work colleague go through this program and she spoke high praises of it. Cameron Bradley is her name.
Oh, yeah.
She was such a powerhouse. And again, she just spoke very highly of the program. This is definitely something that I definitely do have interest in, probably fall of 2024. So more so just kind of gathering information and kind of seeing if this is like the right fit for me.
Great, great.
Garrett, before you go, since it looks like we may or may not have Allison, I know she always talks about some student projects, and I think you and she are often a little closer to those. Could you just tell us about a couple of your kind of favorite student projects over the years? I feel like you and Allison always have more information on that than I do. So I would love for students to hear from you.
Sure. I think they're really diverse. So picking a couple like could skew it one way or the other, but just to give some examples that are some of my favorites. My favorite projects have been the ones where students think of it that they're just doing a project, and then at the end of the semester, we have to point out to them that they've actually started a company. That just happened again the other day, and that was really exciting to see. So one of my current favorites is we got a project from the dental school, and some of them I can talk about, and some I can't because we sign a lot of NDAs. So I'm also selecting some of the coolest projects are the ones I can't tell you about. So I'm going to tell you about the ones where they are not protected by NDA. We did one last year for the dental school at VCU, and they came to us and they had an issue with the current, I would call them mannequin heads. I think there's a more technical term, but they have a simulation lab in the School of Dentistry where future dentists practice doing dental surgery, and they have these, mannequin heads, and they were a number of design problems with the current product. And the student team, en route to solving that, actually created their own proprietary silicone. So they made their own new silicone, and they cast their own new silicone shrouds that go over the mannequin heads for surgery. And at the end of the process, the dental school was so impressed with the fidelity of what they came up with that they wanted to buy hundreds of them. And they were like, we don't just want to use this prototype. Like, how do we get more? Like, can you sell them to us? And so the students formed a medical device company. They've received initial funding. They've got a grant from the Da Vinci Center to pay for the tooling of this. And this was not something, these were not biomedical engineering students, right? This was someone that had a background in theater, someone that had a background in fashion, someone that had a background in cognitive science, and computer science. So like, lest you think these were like just engineers doing engineering things. And they launched the medical device company, and they've gotten their prototypes back, and they have business mentors. They've received additional funding, and they're in the final process of finalizing a contract. And they've gotten this device approved by the National Association that approves dental education, and potentially they're going to sell into all of the dental schools in the US. Again, it's not something that they plan to do long term. It's not something that they see as being their future. But it certainly was a nice way to make us a little bit of additional money and take what was just one course and turn it into a real signature portfolio piece that also offered financial payback for them as students. So that has happened more than once, where we get to the end of a project course and a sponsor has actually said, why don't we just go into business, or I want to hire you. Both of those things have happened at the end of project-based courses. So another company, another one in the medical space, also went to market, assisting people with surgery, post pacemaker and surgery. Trying to think of another one that I can talk about that I know I'm allowed to talk about, MC. I'm trying to think from this current group which ones I'm allowed to talk about, because we had
That's
some
also
really great
secretly
ones.
why I ask you and Allison to do this, because I'm definitely not always up on which ones are kosher.
Let me think if I'm allowed to. I'm pretty sure we're allowed to talk about this one. So we're doing a project right now for brown ballerinas for change. So an example of working with a local nonprofit to help them think through how they can grow their impact. We see a lot of disparity in terms of the tools available to nonprofits versus for-profits. So it's really cool when we do projects for Capital One. Capital One also has a lot of internal resources to be able to deploy towards these projects, but sometimes it's a really nice contrast to be able to bring a lot of the skills and tools that our students have to nonprofits like Brown Ballerinas for Change. And so the ability to watch students deliver something like that for the community is really impactful. We've done projects for Sportable before. We've done a lot in the accessibility space in terms of designing new products that allow more access for individuals that are traditionally underrepresented in a bunch of different spaces. And so, sometimes it's technology, sometimes it's physical products, sometimes it's digital, sometimes it's a service. It really runs the gamut. And I think what's important is that all students in this class are working on their own project, but come together throughout the class to really share with each other what their unique experience is like. And so it's not done in isolation. So the team that's working at Capital One is able to share with their classmates because the entire class signs the NDA, right? So the Capital One team is able to share with everyone else, like, this is what we're doing at Capital One. These are the challenges we face. This is how we solve them. And then they're also hearing the perspective of the group working with a nonprofit. And I think that really helps inform how different this looks across organizations, even if they're in the same space and they're at the same, industry level. But it's that diversity of project and experience and the students being able to share with other teams that I think is one of the strengths of that applied approach to what we do. And then some students I mentioned, like, use this program as an opportunity to bring their own ideas to life. We have a student, if anyone saw the recent VCU news piece about Jack, he was an undergraduate student at JMU and developed this, company around called Toe Ninja, and needed a little more room, and has really taken off over the last year of winning a number of pitch competitions, refining his product, and is now in 3 different municipalities with his product. And so there's that opportunity to work alongside those of us on the faculty that have been entrepreneurs themselves, that have launched successful companies, that have sold successful companies, to also explore that if it emerges or if it's something that folks want to do. But everyone has the ability to do both. And I think that's why our students go to such diverse outcomes, is you will work on innovation for a client where they are the ones driving the outcomes. And then you will also have the experience of bringing something to market of your own fruition. And oftentimes that just helps to reinforce which one people like more, but you'll know how to do both and you will practice both. And then you'll have the chance to double down in one of those that you think you want to pursue. So, they're slightly different. Sometimes people like having guardrails and sometimes people don't like having any guardrails. And so it's important to try both those on for size.
And we'll cover this as we talk through the classes. So that's really helpful context as we go into that conversation. But I'll also just say, if you are coming into the program without an idea, I'll talk through how we have ways to help with that entrepreneurial piece. As Garrett said, everyone does that, but also do not be concerned that you have to have that to come into the program. We can help connect you with entrepreneurial ideas so that you can practice that skill set, if you aren't like Jack coming in with your own company. So either way is totally fine. Any other questions before we let Garrett hop off here?
Thank you for all the information.
Yeah, of course. And if you have future questions, feel free to reach out. But you are in great hands with Mary Chris, and she will walk you through some of the other programmatic elements of the program. So I'll leave you all here, but it was great to meet you.
Okay.
All right, I am going to just share my screen here so that we have some visuals as we go through this part, and I'll have plenty of time for questions as well. Hoping everybody can see what I just put up. Excellent, thank you so much. All right, so Garrett gave you a great overview of kind of who we are at Da Vinci, what we do, what our philosophy is. And so what I'm really going to cover here is just honestly the nuts and bolts of the MPI program, how the classes break down, how you can go full or part-time, and kind of if you are thinking about that December 15th deadline we have coming up, what needs to be submitted by then. So I'll be covering all those things. Feel free as we go through, you can kind of just interrupt or drop something in the chat. I'll have plenty of time at the end as well for questions. So feel free to use any and all of those things. And I will try to keep an eye on the chat as well. So just a tiny bit of information about the Da Vinci Center that Garrett didn't cover. We do have both undergraduate and graduate programs. And so on the undergraduate level, we have a certificate in product innovation, a certificate in venture creation, and classes like kind of specifically in human-centered design, as well as just a number of other classes that are open to all students at the university. And that is actually where we started. So undergrad certificate in product design was our very first offering at the Da Vinci Center. And so if you're not super familiar with that, that basically works a lot like a minor. They are courses that students take next to their majors. So we do have an undergraduate side of what we do, while we don't offer majors on the undergraduate side. But our Master of Product Innovation really honestly grew out of thinking of combining sort of that certificate in product innovation and venture creation, so the product piece and the entrepreneurship piece, elevating them to a master's level and kind of rolling that all into one program. And so that is sort of the impetus of the Master of Product Innovation, or where it began to grow out of. And then more recently, we have added a graduate certificate in healthcare innovation. That is a partnership with the School of Nursing. Students take nursing leadership courses and courses with Da Vinci. As you can hear from Garrett's examples, we absolutely do a number of projects that are not health related, but we were finding ourselves partnering more and more with VCU Health because it's just a space where there is plenty of room for, medical technology, process improvement, all kinds of things. And so there was just a lot of interest in it, and it made sense to launch this certificate. I'm not going to talk in detail about that, but I do like to talk about it a little bit alongside the MPI because you can combine them. So the master's certificate is 12 graduate hours. And essentially, the 2 classes that you would take with nursing leadership, the 6 credits, can fulfill your electives for the MPI. And then, of course, you're already getting the MPI classes. So certificates and master's degrees can play really well together. They can share classes. And so if you do have an interest in the healthcare space, these combine really, really nicely in that you take your electives specifically with School of Nursing, and then there's no additional cost to add on the certificate. You're basically graduating then with the MPI as well as the healthcare innovation certificate. If you all are interested in healthcare, we do whole information sessions on that. Or also just know if you're ever talking to anyone else about it, that certificate can also be taken as a standalone 12 credits. You've earned a graduate certificate. So that is out there. But I like to point out that there's no additional cost to MPIs. And as far as application process, you do have to apply to the certificate, but we are able to, if you are going through the process and applying to the MPI, we will waive the application fee. For the healthcare certificate, we can typically waive the interview. So you do have to fill out the application for that, but we can often streamline the process if you're going through the MPI program. So I've got a couple slides here. I'm going to talk through these classes so that the numbers make sense, but I want to show you sort of what full-time and part-time can look like in our program. I think it's helpful to have a visual here. So I'll talk through the classes so you can understand what you'll be learning, and then just know that I will also show you what this can look like on a more part-time basis. So we're kind of talking in the framework right now of a summer start because this upcoming deadline is for our summer program. We also have the option for you to start in the fall if starting in the summer, and summer being May of 2024. So if May of 2024, that's not great. We also offer a fall start, and we can talk about what that looks like a little bit. But Summer, so Garrett mentioned the European Innovation Academy, EIA, which is that international experience, tech-based entrepreneurship. It's a really cool experience. It is a fire hose of ideation all the way to pitch, with an international team across about 3 weeks in July in Portugal. So just a really, really cool experience. Great way to kick off the program. You can also take it in the middle of the program if you start in the fall. But that INNO or INNO 600 is that EIA experience. So students get credit for that toward the MPI. Your alternate class there is a 610 course, which is design thinking and change management. That is an online course that can actually be taken at any point in the program, but it can be taken as the same requirement as the EIA requirement. So amazing if you go to EIA and that is available to you, but you do not have to be able to do that international trip in order to complete the program. I will just mention, because it always comes up, the international trip to Portugal, EIA, you paid obviously tuition for the INNO 600. Your entrance to EIA as well as your lodging is covered. And so the expense to you as a student is your flight, and then obviously like food and things while you're there for the experience. So that's kind of how that breaks down. And then typically in the summer, we offer a series of, that 691 is a topics course. We offer a series usually of 1 credit electives in things like user experience, user design, user research. We've done Scrum Master training in the past. We've done some international intellectual property or intellectual property law. These are specifically designed to sort of give students some good base knowledge before they go to EIA. Obviously, they're also just really good things for product designers and innovators and entrepreneurs to know. So, you know, they are applicable either way. But most students take about 3 of those 1 credit classes over the summer to do half of the elective credits that they need for the program. If you were doing something like combining this with the healthcare certificate, you have an option not to do that because your electives will be covered. The nice thing about them being 1 credit is, you know, maybe you're fulfilling your electives other ways, but you still definitely want to take the Scrum Master class. You can do that, and it's just 1 credit. Those all happen typically for the most part before EIA, so that students are done with those 1 credit classes before they go to Portugal. And the way that breaks down in the summer is, you know, it might be Monday through Thursday for pretty long, kind of 4 to 9 o'clock, but just for 1 week kind of thing. So it works really nicely with a work schedule as well. So moving into the fall, as you can see here, fall is a packed semester on the full-time schedule. Fall is really the foundation of really that product innovation piece. And this is where we really lean into being a cross-disciplinary center and teaching in a really cross-disciplinary manner. So these courses here, all their numbers are essentially, this is an arts and design course, a business course, and an engineering and tech course are the 501, 502, 503. I will mention, if you are coming to us with an undergraduate background in one of those 3 areas, you do have an option to opt out of that course. So if you have an undergrad business degree or arts degree, you know, or engineering degree or something tech heavy like info systems, often, you know, you can opt out of that course. You also have the ability to take them all. And usually what I recommend to students is try them out, go the first week, you know, see. A great example is the 501, which is an arts and design course. If you have a background in arts, but not design, you're probably still going to get a lot out of that. We have had folks with theater or music majors say, oh, I kind of wish I had opted into that class because it covers truly more design than kind of arts more broadly. So, you know, we can talk you through that, but you do have an option to potentially waive one of those if that's where your undergrad background was. Those are all, you know, Garrett was talking, the course that Garrett was talking about that I asked him to give some examples from is that INNO, that INNO 590, which is a project class. But know that in the 501, 502, 503, you are doing projects. You are still learning in a very hands-on way. I'm really excited. I'm headed in tonight to see final presentations in that 501 arts and design course. And they are working this semester with Underground Kitchen and with, I think one of the local kind of medical providers that works as a nonprofit whose name is escaping me right now, but they're working on those nonprofit projects from that design perspective and using really hands-on things even in that course. So letting you know that like everything is going to be, they're also not taking an exam this week. They are presenting about projects that they did and that kind of thing. So very hands-on, very cross-disciplinary. Garrett did a great job of covering the kind of projects that you might work on in that 590 course. Everyone takes this, no matter your undergrad background. And this really is your course where you're working on product. And of course, product could be creating a physical product or a digital product or looking at process improvement. So the example that Garrett gave with Brown Ballerinas for Change is really kind of looking at process, right? Looking at where they want to position themselves and, how they want to market. So really looking at that user experience, user design. It's less of a physical product than something like the example he gave with the dental shroud, where they're literally making a silicone product for people to use in dental school. So lots of variety there. You are intentionally paired up with students who have different backgrounds. So you're all uniquely bringing your own academic backgrounds and your own lived experience to those projects. So just a really cool course where you're getting to practice and learn the whole process of product by doing. So the customer discovery, the prototyping, the presenting to the client piece. So fall is extremely product focused. It's really giving you that strong background in design, tech, and business, and having you apply the things you're learning in those classes in a project-based course. Moving on into the spring, this is where everyone focuses on entrepreneurship. So that INNO 651 is sort of the first part of a capstone. It goes along with that 652 that I'll talk about in just a minute. But everybody focuses on an entrepreneurial project in 651. And so this is where a student like Jack, who Garrett talked about, works on his Toe Ninja project. Not that he wasn't working on that in the fall as well, but this is where he gets to really dig in as his coursework on that project. We have another student who's graduating in December who is doing a really cool thing with like bike signaling technology that you wear on your wrist while you're riding a bike. And he is going to be putting that up on Kickstarter, or I think he has it up on Kickstarter. So anyway, like that is another example of, he didn't come to us with that. That's an idea he came up with while he was in the program, moving into 651, that he decided he wanted to work on as his entrepreneurial project. And that does happen. And so I want to stress that, like, he didn't come to us with this idea. That was something kind of in his course of going through his summer and fall classes. He is a biker and he rides, to school and just is very concerned about safety and just really kind of got this brainstorm that he wants to move forward with this project. But that he didn't come in with that. He wasn't the student who graduated from undergrad with this idea. We also sometimes have students who are just like, I really want to learn this, but like, I don't have an idea. And that is completely fine. So we can work with VCU's tech transfer office. We can work with sometimes people who just approach us with, things that they want to develop and flesh out. We sometimes also can work with VCU Health on ideas that have come through there, but we will help you find an entrepreneurial endeavor to focus on if you don't have one. You can also partner up with someone else in the class. So sometimes that happens naturally. The dental shroud project that Garrett was talking about started in that 590 class and actually continued into that 651 class. So that also happens sometimes. You develop something in that project class that you can then just continue on with. So we do not leave you hanging there. There are lots of ways to find that. But essentially in that course, we're picking up kind of wherever you are and walking you through what it looks like to be an entrepreneur starting your own thing. And you're going to get to learn that by doing. You're going to spend the whole spring semester really working on that, really digging in. I'll come back and talk about that in elective in a minute, but after that 651, you move on to 652, which is your final capstone course. And this is where you really kind of have a choose your own adventure. So if you are Jack or Andy, who have their idea for, Toe Ninja or the bike product, they can continue that on into 652. and just continue digging in on that, moving to the next level of funding. 652, for example, you've come up with the idea, you've done your customer discovery in the 651, maybe you launch the Kickstarter in 652, maybe you get your ideas accepted into an accelerator, and that is your 652. Maybe if you're someone like Jack, you get just kind of to a new location, signed on to Toad Ninja, and you get more funding, and you're just continuing it on. So you can basically apply to continue that project. And if you've made enough progress in 651, you just continue on with your entrepreneurial project to finish out our program. Where we get into choose your own adventure, you can also do an internship in 652. So we absolutely have students who come in, knowing that they want to go into user experience, user design, user research, project management, and they can do an internship to finish out our program. Jesse, you mentioned Cameron. That is the path that Cameron took, and has really scaled that into a job at CarMax, but doing an internship. In fact, actually, I'm saying it's an internship. I think Cameron got that job before she actually finished our program.
She fully got before she finished up the program.
She did, yes. And that is actually a really good point to talk about. She got that like right as she was coming up on that final semester, and like that counted as her, final course for us, because it was basically a pretty new, brand new position for her. And so we've even had students, we had a student working at the Fed who was able to continue working at her job and just pick up a project as that 652 that was related to what we teach. So we couldn't just let her do her job that she had been doing for like 5 years, but she was able to kind of swing an assignment to do a little bit of extra work and have a little bit of release from her current job to do something very project management related, very product related. And she was able to do that within her job. So that 652 can look like a lot of things. It could be an internship. It can be a brand new job. It can be something within your job that you are, just focused on something that we teach at Da Vinci. I will say we have a really strong mentorship program, and we encourage students to start those conversations early. We're not like, as someone who came through School of Ed, you get placed in an internship, right? We don't have that. And that is partially because we want students to like find something that is of interest to them. Like, we might place you somewhere that isn't where you want to go, but we do have strong connections in the community and can help you make those connections and start working toward that internship that you might want to get. And so I'll talk about the mentoring more in just a moment, but you can finish out the program by continuing your entrepreneurial idea, by doing an internship, or by writing a thesis, which we've not had anybody take us up on, but you can do it. And we would be glad to support you in doing that. But we tend to be a more applied program. So we haven't had students really take us up on that option. We do also, I'll pop back, you are required to do 6 credits of electives over the course of the MPI. And so most students do another 3 credits of electives, typically 1 class in the spring semester alongside the 651 course if they're going full time. Just to talk a little bit, I talked about the topics courses that we offer in the summer. We offer a number of other electives. We offer things like we have an innovation in energy course. We had an AI and U course. We have a designing your brand strategy, launching a Kickstarter. So we have a bunch of classes kind of through Da Vinci that you can take that supplement, they honestly truly come out of things that students are saying they want, or things that we have current faculty or interested community partners come to us and want to teach. But you can also take graduate level courses in other departments. As long as you have the prerequisites or there aren't prerequisites, we can work with other departments. We've had students take, if students are interested kind of in that nonprofit area, we've had students take things like funding a nonprofit or grant writing through Wilder School. We've had a number of students take MBA courses if they really want to do a deep dive into marketing, kind of taught in that traditional business school way. We've had a few students do some art courses. I've had some students do some engineering courses. When we get into arts and engineering, we're going to have to talk through prerequisites and that kind of thing. But one of my favorite things to do is to help students find courses that they feel like, basically, we want you to use these electives to kind of plug in where you feel like you need knowledge. And we're offering more and more and more every semester, but sometimes the best match really still is in another department. And we can work with you. Those just have to be 500 or 600 level, graduate courses that you can take. So that finishes out your electives. You also have an option, I'll mention, to do an independent study. And so while we haven't had anyone take us up on writing a full-blown thesis to finish out our program, we have had a couple students who were toying with, did they want to go on to a PhD? Did they want to stay in academia? And they've done pretty significant research projects as part of an independent study. So designing something that they want to research. We had somebody do a really deep dive on semiotics in marketing around like packaging, which I didn't even know what that was until he did that project, and it was fabulous. And worked with a colleague of ours that we work closely with sometimes in business. He wrote a great paper. I was able to get it accepted to a journal. I believe got to go present at a conference or do a poster at a conference. So, he got to kind of test out what that felt like without maybe doing the giant thesis, but doing something that felt like a significant amount of research. So a lot of flexibility with that too. I have a student doing an independent study. My background is in education. I think I mentioned that. And I have a student doing an independent study with me. She really wanted to dive into unschooling as a concept, which fits in really nicely with what we do at Da Vinci and kind of rethinking higher ed and rethinking education. And so she's done lots of reading on that topic. She's kind of put herself through her own kind of unschooling experiment where she's just kind of following her passions in this one particular class. And myself, and we have another faculty member who actually has used some of this with her own children in homeschooling. And so she and I are mentoring this project. And so we're always open to like having you try out things that are of interest to you. So that kind of rounds out our program. I do want to show you just what that would look like if you were to start in the fall full-time, and then I'll show you a part-time. Basically, if you start in the fall, it just bounces that EIA experience or the 610 to the summer kind of in the middle, which works just fine. The only thing I'll point out here, the 600, which is EIA, and 652, which is that big how you finish out our program capstone, can't be done together. So technically you could start in the fall, and if you wanted to do the 610 option where you're doing the online class and change management and design thinking, that can be done with 652. So technically you could start in the fall and finish in the summer, but you do have to be okay with not taking that trip to Portugal. You just can't do a 6-credit capstone when you're gone for 3 weeks doing the EIA experience. So this is kind of how it breaks out, really assuming you want to do that Portugal trip. Know that if you didn't want to do that, you can sometimes do some extra electives in the spring and then do that 6-credit 652 with 610 in the summer and finish out that way. So all that to say, these are like just to kind of give you a visual of what it could look like. There is flexibility. And similarly, we absolutely do have students go through part-time in our program. And this is what that could look like if you started in the fall and went part-time. I will point out, people do sometimes say, well, could I just do one class at a time? And you can do whatever feels right to you. I will say we only offer that 500 series of classes in the fall. So if you do one class at a time, it's just going to spread it out over a really long time. Part-time at 6 credits a semester, it only takes 2 years. It feels like kind of a nice, doable way to do this. And I will also just give the caveat with those 501 classes, if you're eligible to, skip one, then you do have a semester in the fall where maybe you are just taking one class because you don't need all 4 of them. So this is something, so my role with the program is kind of everything focused on student success. So admissions and recruiting and these kind of events, as well as advising once you're in the program and lots of other things. But I sit down and do an individualized plan with everyone. And I'm also always happy to look at that while you're a prospective student. I just like to kind of cover, hey, like the 500 classes are only in the spring, 651 or only in the fall, 651 is only in the spring. So there's only so much flexibility, that we have with moving those things around. I'll also mention the 652 is offered in the spring and the summer. Oh, sorry, I got that wrong. Summer and fall. So we offer 652 in summer and fall semester. And so students, even if they're going full-time, can choose whether they're taking that in the summer or fall semester. And we had a number of our students, choose to go ahead and wait and take that in the fall this year and graduate in December and just give themselves a little bit more space. So lots of flexibility there. I'm going to stop there and see if you all have any questions about classes, and then I can just go through these last couple of slides. Any questions about those things?
None for me, no.
Okay. Okay.
Not for me either.
Okay, excellent. So just a few kind of perks and resources. Garrett mentioned Shift Retail Lab. We are continuing to just really, work out that space and how MPIs are using it. But literally, it's open to any student at VCU to use. Our undergrads use it, our MPIs use it. But it is an amazing space. We had an MPI do her 651 course where she was doing an entrepreneurial project. She wanted to do a prototype of an Iranian cultural festival, and really, bringing in like things people might not know about the culture. So she kind of blocked off part of the room and had a screen showing landscapes that would surprise people. We think of it as a lot of desert and sand, and she was showing mountains and snow, and she had food and music and just all kinds of things. She had members of the Iranian community that she knows who are in Richmond come in and serve as cultural ambassadors. You could ask them questions. So she basically took over the whole space and used it to run this event as her final project in that 651 class. We had some students do that in their 652 course. They turned it into a music venue for a night, to test out something that they were wanting to run. So you have use of that space. You do get some capstone funding split over the course of the 651 and 652. You can use that for all kinds of things. You can use it for training that might help support, like training that's not for credit that you can't get through an elective course. You can use it for marketing materials. We've had students use it for the prizes that go along with launching their Kickstarter, all kinds of things like that. So there's some funding there. Mentoring and network access. So every student is assigned, we have a mentor rotation, and you're assigned to a certain mentor for, each semester for like several weeks of the semester. And you can meet with that person as much as you want. We require is a strong word, but like we have the expectation that you are meeting with them, each mentor at least once a semester. So 4 people at least once a semester. And that is just really key, again, to if you're thinking about internships, down the road, having them help you network, having them tap into their networks to help you find things like internships, but also, bouncing ideas off for funding and products and kind of whichever direction you're going. So you do have a mentor. We do have fellowships, scholarships, and graduate assistantships. So fellowships are typically available to full-time students. And what we have been offering is a $10,000 fellowship. This is a student taking the time to do a deeper dive on research and networking in an area that is of interest to them. And then they're doing regular presentations on that at kind of midterm and final of the semester, just to let us know what they're doing. So essentially a scholarship, but just with a little bit of an added like research component, networking component. Scholarships, just are straight up scholarships that are available to students. Those are really largely dependent on what we have from donors to the program, from our advisory board and things like that. Those are typically, and then we also just, if we become aware of funding from the graduate school and things like that, we always pass that along to students. And then if students would like to work as graduate assistantships, that is a hourly position, about 20 hours a week, that helps offset living costs. So this is a GA position that is essentially a student worker position. So there is not a tuition stipend that goes with that, but it is, an hourly position, 20 hours a week, again, to help hopefully offset some living cost of living a little bit for you. All VCU students have free Adobe Creative Cloud access. We've got a maker space over off of Cathedral Place, close to Monroe Park, kind of near the Commons. That's where Garrett was today in his space. So our 2 spaces on campus are that space, and then the space across from the Siegel Center where Shift Retail Lab and our classrooms and some of our offices are. So the maker space at that building off of Cathedral is 24/7 swipe access. We have woodshop tools, 3D printers, laser cutter, computers with software that you can use. So, that is fully available just to MPIs and our undergrad students. And we do have a graduate student who his role in his graduate assistantship is to provide training. So he's a student who's doing a dual master's of science and engineering and working with us as well. And so he is very familiar with equipment and will do group or one-on-one trainings on all of that for students, or also just help you like with a specific project that you want to make, which could 100% be for the MPI, or could be like the student that Garrett mentioned, who is a dentist, was going to a conference and wanted to make little skull souvenirs to take to his friends. And so we can help you make things like that too. So it can also be just for fun. And then we do also work with College of Engineering if you want to get access to their makerspace. We also help students. They do some much more elaborate training than what we do in our makerspace, and there's some cost for that, and we can help offset that cost if students really want a deeper dive into things like they have some tool that like cuts metal with water, like all kinds of things like that. We can help you with those things. That's just a few of the perks. Couple things to note: if you are thinking about applying and you want to apply by December 15th, we'll send this out afterwards, but this is just kind of, there's a few places to click, and ultimately you're going to end up on the graduate schools page, and there's this little application for all other graduate programs. Once you click into that, that's how you find the Da Vinci Center. We're really easy to find once you get there, but this just kind of helps you get to that place where you would apply. And then just what you would need to submit by December 15th, or if you're thinking about, you already know you want to apply for fall, our application for fall will open on December 15th, and we take those up until I think May 15th is our deadline for that. My head hasn't even moved on to that deadline yet, but you have plenty of time on those fall applications. None of this changes. These are still the same things that we need. What I really want to point out is that we don't require standardized testing. If you're applying to a bunch of programs and you have standardized tests and you want to send them our way, you're more than welcome. But we don't require it. We always waived them for people who were 5 years or more out of undergrad. And again, if people want to submit them out of undergrad because they're taking them, and that's fine. But we waived them in 2020, as did most graduate programs, because it was just really hard for people to do testing. And what we found is kind of what we'd always suspected, is that it really did not make a difference. That we are placing a lot more value on those personal statements, which we always were. The personal statements, the resume and experience. We do an interview. So you'll notice on our website, anybody who submits by December 15th will have a January 30th interview. We're getting to know students that way. And that honestly is typically better than test scores. You do have an option to submit a portfolio. So we used to sort of, if you were just out of college, we would require standardized tests, and we would require a portfolio if you were coming from an arts background. That arts portfolio is not required anymore, but everyone has the option to submit a portfolio if you want to. And a lot of times what this looks like is folks have a website where they've got presentations they've made or things that they've designed. The biggest question I get is, what if I'm not in arts and design? Like, what kind of portfolio can I submit? And again, that can be something about, projects that you've worked on in undergrad or at work. Honestly, it's also often just fun to see your about page and get to know you a little bit and know what your hobbies are. We've had students submit writing or, playing a musical instrument or video from like a band that they're in, like, just anything that kind of shows who you are as a person. We're also finding more and more students who are kind of in that group coming out of undergrad. This is often something that they just have, that they have developed while they're in undergrad. And so we're not asking, it is totally optional, but if you do have a website or a way to showcase some of your work, we would love to see that. This helps us get to know you better. And then everything else listed here, I just like to point out, all you have to put down on the application are the names and email addresses of references. You don't have to like get reference letters and upload them. Basically, you enter those on the application and it sends something to your reference that they complete, and it goes back into the same system. So you can submit, just names and email addresses. You're not needing to get those in. And similarly, you submit a request for transcripts, and we don't have to, there is a place for you to upload an unofficial transcript, which is helpful when we're initially looking at those. But your official one does not have to be there by December 15th. It just has to be there down the road when you're accepted. All right, and I've got some general information there. That general email does go to an account that is monitored and answered, so we will get those if you reach out. I will see if you all have questions. I will also just put my email in the chat directly, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me, but they do make their way to me eventually from that account as well. Okay, there you go. Any questions?
No questions from me. It was just really nice to get all the nitty-gritty details. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you mentioned that you are a VCU employee. So are you both? Because I think I noticed when I looked at the sign up. Okay, I was like, so this is actually relevant to both of you. Yeah, when I was looking through the sign up, I was like, I feel like both of these names are employees. So you use you can use tuition reimbursement. But we have it's a little bit of an interesting situation. So our tuition is a non-standard tuition. It's a little bit higher because we're an accelerated program. Brand Center falls in that category as well. There's probably some other, I think the executive MBA. So it's actually, if you take courses with us as a non-degree seeking student, your tuition is completely covered by the tuition waiver. Once you are classified as a Master's of Product Innovation student, so once you apply and you're fully accepted and like matriculated into our program, the tuition rate then changes. So non-degree, I think it must just be non-degree seeking students are just charged the flat like Monroe Park campus tuition rate. And that is what your tuition benefit covers. And so there's a little bit of an interesting thing where if you are a VCU employee, it's actually to your benefit to start taking courses with us as a non-degree seeking student and then apply so that you can maximize your tuition reimbursement. Once you are fully accepted into the MPI, your tuition reimbursement is going to cover about half. So it's still, you're still getting a master's degree for like way less of a cost, but you can, the new policy is that you can transfer up to 12 credits in that you take as a non-degree seeking student. If you're then accepted to the program, they can be applied to the degree. So we would typically recommend that you take your first 4 classes as a non-degree seeking student and, then apply. And once you're fully accepted, then that higher tuition rate is going to kick in and your tuition reimbursement won't go quite as far on that. And I'm again happy. I'm sorry, what was that?
That was going to be my question, was around this. So that's very helpful. And are all of the classes, are there specific ones that have to be degree seeking?
Not that you would be taking early on. So what I have done in the past, so absolutely, yes, when you get to the capstone and stuff, yes, those are definitely, you have to be degree seeking. But there are restrictions on those 500 level classes, but this is where the benefit of being a small program, of being really boutique. When I'm working with employees who want to take those classes, we just override you into them. So yes, we're not going to be able to put you in the 651 and 652 until you're fully applied, but you don't need that early on anyway. So, and then things like the 610 course, that is actually already open to anybody who wants to take it, as are our electives. So there are a lot of things that you can just really easily do as non-degree seeking, but we will override you into the 501, 502, 503, 590, so that you can take those and not get behind. So for both of you, probably not that 12/15 deadline if you're thinking that you want to use tuition reimbursement to do this, but stay in touch, because you might want to take a summer or a fall class and we could, get you registered. I'll also say, sometimes people have a concern because non-degree seeking registers, after everyone else, we will have seats for you. That's not going to be a problem. And we're still feeling our way with this as we kind of learned the difference in tuition. And I had someone ask, and it was such a good question. They're like, is it basically an automatic acceptance at that point? If I've been taking all these non-degree seeking, and I mean, you're still going to fill out the application, but you've been in our classes, you've been with our professors. The couple people that we've had, kind of work through this, our professors write their recommendations. I mean, it's actually kind of a beautiful, like, you're getting a chance to try it out, make sure it's something you really like before you're paying that higher price. And we're getting to sort of do the world's best interview. Like, we're getting to see actually like how you interact in the classes. And so, usually that works out just fine. We actually had a student, who started this way, and that's how we kind of figured this out, because she got accepted and she was like, why is my bill so high? And we were like, we don't know. We assumed you were paying the higher amount as a non-degree seeking student. And come to find out she wasn't. And we realized that there's just a different way that those are billed.
So the deadlines and things for non-degree seeking students are slightly different for
So
sign up for classes.
Have either of you taken classes before?
Not since I graduated.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a super simple process. It's a form that you fill out with records and registration, and it's not.
Okay.
I think they might need they do need a transcript, but if you went to VCU, they'll be, well, you can pull that yourself. I don't think they need an official transcript. I I might be wrong about that if you didn't go to VCU. I went to VCU and have taken classes here. So so they might eventually need an official transcript, but that would be like the biggest thing they would need. Okay. So it's basically just you filling out, and you also fill out for in-state tuition. So just all those questions about like how long you've lived in Virginia and do you have a driver's license, those kind of things. Yeah.
I actually took a Vinci Center class when I was an undergrad at
Did
VCU.
you?
Yeah.
I think I saw that too on the forum that you said you had to. Did you take a certificate or did you just do a class with us?
Just did one of the classes. I think
that's so cool.
When I did the class, it was the first year that the certificate existed, I think. So
yeah, very cool. I love that.
It's awesome. And what the program has grown to is incredible. And honestly, it's been integral to my career so far. So it was interesting to see what else is available to learn more and, engage differently. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate all the information. And I think Lester Brown was also registered for this today. And he specifically asked me to make sure he got updated because he couldn't make it last minute.
Okay.
So,
totally fine. And
learn more too.
We'll send out the recording. We might, I realized I forgot to stop the recording for the Q&A. So we may or may not do the Q&A part, but we will send out just like the info part and Garrett's intro. So, and I'm always happy. We send these out and then we have a bunch of recorded ones. So I'm always happy once someone has watched a session or come to a session, I can do individual meetings and like help you plot out exactly like how you would go through the program. And especially as we have more and more employees interested, I know it sounds strange, but we want you to maximize that tuition benefit, and it ends up saving, like you can get about half of the program done fully covered, and then you're only paying for half of half, which feels a lot better.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's very good to know.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And I'll just kind of keep in touch with me if you all are thinking about summer or fall classes. I'm also just kind of, again, keeping a little list of like, these folks are maybe employees who might want to do non-degree seeking. So I'll try to do some outreach too as we get closer to time to sign up for classes. But yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Good to see you both.
Yeah. Happy holidays. Take care.
Happy holidays to you all too. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.